chess friends, hope you are doing well. Today I have a very impressive chess game that was played between Torch and me. This is the rematch that I played against Torch because yesterday he defeated me. Usually, I play with white pieces, but I decided to go with black pieces this time. I will also share the chess traps that hinder the king's gambit. So, let's get started without wasting any time. Torch started the game with e4, and we have e5. He then played f4, initiating the king's gambit. We discussed in the previous video, that moving out the bishop and the knights to their usual squares, and even white can consider d4. From black's perspective, you can play the usual knight f6, bishop out to c5, and queen h4 moves. Playing d5 is also a natural move. Let me share the chess strategy and the chess trap that hinders the d5 variation. Employing a gambit and after knight f3, you can actually capture the pawn on e4. When white captures the pawn on e5, you can plant your bishop on f5, like sitting the bishop in a tower to camp his territory. When the knight reaches c3 to attack the pawn, you can defend it. If the queen goes to e2 to attack the e4 pawn, you can consider knight c6 to offer an exchange, but white plays a cunning move, knight takes f7, sacrificing the knight right away. The idea behind this move is that if you capture the knight, then the queen can formidably come to c4 to attack the queen and the bishop, so that is the plan behind knight takes f7, but you can also play a stunning move that can shock white, queen to e7, sacrificing the rook right away. After you capture it, white can play the impressive move knight to d4, attacking the queen. It's like you're eating burger on Mars, and an alien comes and asks for an identical code, but you don't know the code. And then suddenly, you wake up from the dream, and discovered that your friend is in front of you. That's akin to this position. When the queen moves back to protect that pawn from the knight's attack, can you guess the brilliant move that black can employ in this position? The brilliant move is knight to f3 check. What a cunning little sacrifice it is. You can see that the bishop is well protecting that diagonal. The king cannot go there because bishop to g4 will sweetly destroy white's position, like a sweet defeat for his opponent by his sweet warrior. After the exchanges occur, the file will be opened, and the king has no square to go. He has to block it with the bishop. The best move that white can play is f2 check, and then consequently bishop to h3 will come on the board, leading to checkmate. That is the brilliant chess strategy that you can employ in your game. Going back to the position, we discovered that d5 hinders a chess trap, but actually, I played e takes f4, accepting the king's gambit, after knight to f3. You have some usual knight stops, such as knight to f6, here white may consider playing e5 to attack the knight, and as the knight reaches h5, white has d4, knight c3, and usual bishop moves. These are the usual moves played by most chess players. I am sharing another chess trap that hides in the knight c3 variation. You can actually consider d6 to attack the pawn, but white here plays bishop to c4, attacking the pawn. He thinks that after the captures, the f7 pawn will fall down like Napoleon Bonaparte, defeated and fallen against his opponent, England, but black has a nice tactical idea, like inventing an atom bomb which can fire up the air-attacking aeroplane, going to h4 check, noticing that g3 is not possible. That is a very nice tactical idea. After the king moves, play the usual bishop e6. White just captures the bishop. Our main strategy is not to capture the bishop and minimize the attacking chances of white. Our main strategy is to sacrifice our knight like a brave soldier sacrificing himself for the country. You cannot actually capture the knight because your rook will be hanging. As the king moves to g1, you can play the cunning bishop check, and d4 comes on the board, but don't worry, it is a rubbish move because you can capture the d4 pawn. White may be tempted, seeing that your two pieces are hanging, but he cannot capture them. For example, if you dare to capture my bishop, I can play the sweet kiss of death. It's like you cared too much for your pet snakes, and they wanting to admire you by giving a kiss, but that will be a deadly kiss. Knight to e2 check is akin to that because after the capture, queen e1 will lead to a checkmate. That was the second trap that you can employ in your game. Going back to the position, I noticed my king along with my pieces are all passive, like in the winter season. they are all taking a blanket and they are just watching summer season video under the blanket, so, I decided to go with c5, making a strong bond of friendship and bringing the bishop out to c4. Torch thought he could invade and attack my f7 pawn by planting his knight and bishop. We discovered in the previous video, that playing h6 and f6 is a very bad choice. Which is why I decided to go with g4, that's a very aggressive move. Here, most of you might consider playing knight to e5, but it is a completely bad and absurd move, despite attacking the f7 pawn. Then, I can consider the powerful move h4 check, noticing that g3 is not possible because your rook will be hanging there. As the game progresses, the knight will arrive at c6, attacking the knight. Instead of capturing the knight, 80% of chess players might consider capturing the pawn on f7, attacking the rook, but knight takes f7 is a very bad move because it looks absurd. It's like someone calls you a donkey, but a real donkey, an animal donkey beside you who is eating grass, says, "Why are you calling him a donkey? You are insulting me." Because now black can consider b5, kicking out the bishop and consequently, bishop to c5 will arrive on the board. Now, you might consider queen to e2, I mean, it is a desirable move for some chess players, but then f3 will invade and attack. After capture and recapture, you can see that the square is well protected by the queen, but that doesn't matter. It's like if you are drowning in a lake, then you have to get out of the water, no matter how. Instead of that, you just enjoy the water. Suddenly, your dreams break, and you wake up from sleep to find your bed is soaked like a child who wets his bed. Understand yourself what I am trying to say. Here comes the d5 move to involve the bishop on the g4 square. You can see that analogy is akin to this chess variation where the white king is drowning, but in reality, he just wets his territory. h3 might be a desirable move, but then knight to d4 attacking the queen will arrive. As the queen moves back, bishop takes h3 will arrive. Capturing the bishop will lead to a very dangerous situation for you. After the king moves, knight f3 check will arrive, leading to checkmate. The game will be completely over for you. So, let me share a marvelous quote with you. You may think the grass is greener on the other side, but if you take the time to water your own grass, it would be just as green. Alright, so going back to the position, when I played g4, Torch didn't consider knight e5, instead, he just castled, leaving his knight unguarded. The knight scrambles. Why did you sacrifice me, bro? I was your chariot. After that, you can see that black's position, along with his pieces, are all passive. They are not stuck, but they are passive. This is why I need to involve my queen on f6. After d3 attacked the pawn, Torch got enough compensation for the knight. Playing d6 blocks the bishop's diagonal and also protects the e5 square from the pawn. After the knight moves to c3, playing bishop to e6 is a very bad choice. Let me illustrate that position. Knight to d5 will arrive, and retreating the queen to d8 is a very bad choice. You cannot play long castle because your queen is hanging. You will lose the queen. You have to notice that you will lose the queen like a lawyer, who lost his case because he was busy making too much false evidence. Going back to the position, capturing the knight is also a very bad choice because your knight will be under attack. Instead of playing knight e7, some may consider playing knight e5, a donkey type of move, but after bishop b5 check, the knight blocks, and after captures occur on d7, it looks like the king is almost safe there, but you know what? h4 check will arrive on the board, and you can see that the king will be arrested in San Francisco, due to a drug-dealing case. Even bishop to g5 and rook to e1 will just destroy your king's position completely on the board. The game will be completely over for you. Going back to the position, I didn't consider bishop e6, instead, I just moved back my queen. You can see that this position is like a turtle hodge defense. We have knight to d5 attacking the pawn, and the king moves to e8 because he has no other choice. As the bishop moves and the knight comes to e5 for some counterplay, your bishop cannot capture the knight because it is an attacking piece, and you should not eliminate it since you are down material, like being a lap behind in a race against me. After the queen moves back, and the knight and rook come to e3, Torch wants to consider rook g3 to trap my queen. Additionally, he is also considering bishop g5 followed by bishop f6 to invade and attack. This is a strong attack that he can consider in his position because, after all, he is a chess AI, but a chess AI is nothing to me. I am equal to 100 chess engines, and one chess engine is equal to 100 chess grandmasters, and one grandmaster is equal to 100 chess players like you, so I exchanged pieces on d5, and consequently, queen to b3 comes on the board to attack the pawn. In this position, playing king to c8 would be a very bad choice because white can respond with d4, kicking out my knight right away. Regardless of the knight's move, the position will be wasted because if you dare to capture the bishop, rook to e8 check will arrive, and you will lose the rook. Even playing knight to d7 looks good, but a similar idea, rook e8, will lead to a checkmate. Like being flagged for using bad language in a community, which occurs with many chess players on chess.com. When you use one bad sentence, your account will be immediately banned, despite having a diamond membership for 1 year. Anyway, in this position, instead of playing king c8, I played the best move, bishop c8, to protect that pawn and prevent the rook from coming in free, but Torch, more determined than me, played d4 to kick out my knight right away. Now, where should the knight go? Think a little bit. Capturing the bishop on c4 is a very bad choice. Let me illustrate why. Despite white having an open file, white can attack by playing rook to g3, trapping the queen. If queen f6 faces bishop g5, now bishop to g4 looks good, but h3 can ask the bishop where it arrived, at your grandpa's home or a mental hospital. Because your bishop is under attack, your queen cannot go anywhere. You have to consider h5 to create some breathing room for the queen. Then I can capture the c4 knight, and your bishop on the next move. White will get enough compensation, and will lead the game like a politician who gives warm and inspiring speeches, but behind the scenes, he's just a brainwasher. If you look at chess, every piece has its own power, but the king is powerless. Everyone should protect the king. Every chess piece has to die, but the king itself never dies. Even when it gets checkmated, you cannot capture the king. That's hilarious. So, let me share an inspirational quote with you. You are worth more than you can ever know. So many people look to you for motivation and inspiration. Keep going, for yourself and for them. Going back to the position, the knight cannot move to its usual square, which is why we have rook to g8 to get access to this file. Rook to g3 happens on the board, and now I played knight to g6. That is a very good strategy to consider. After a couple of moves, we have the queen going to h5, Torch is considering bishop h6 to trap my queen. Literally, Torch is attacking my queen in the first phase of the game. Why are you attacking my queen? Don't you have any other work? In a few moves, Torch may consider h4 and h5, which is why my queen slides. After the rook comes to e3, he gets another opportunity to develop his rooks on the e-file, as the bishop moves, and after some piece exchanges, we have the bishop going to f5 to attack the bishop. Now I have to capture the bishop, and after that, my king goes to b8. It looks like my king is very safe there. It actually is safe, but Torch immediately tries to strike me with b4. He is attacking my queen side because the bishop diagonal will open, and the rook can get the open c-file with a big army. His main idea is to attack the c7 pawn. Like every territory has its main city. If you conquer that city, you gain control of all other territories. After the bishop moves back and c5 is played, Torch puts his queen on the d7 square. In this position, black cannot play any normal kind of move. For instance, if you play h4, white can capture the pawn, and after he captures it, bishop d6 will arrive on the board. You can see that black's king will be in a very bad position. Like an anaconda from the Amazon attacking you while camping in the jungle, white can regain his material and be very happy. So, going back to the position, playing any normal move is wasted, which is why I decided to go with rook f8, supporting the queen. When he captured the pawn, I played a very masterful move. Can you guess that move? The move is knight takes d5, simultaneously attacking the queen. When you capture the pawn, knight takes c7 comes on the board, still attacking your queen. your queen moves back, and after the king moves, the queen goes to c4. You can see that Torch still wants to attack my king side, but after a few more moves, we have d5, the pawn is captured, and the rook comes in. When the queen goes to a2, playing a5 doesn't bring any advantages for you because my bishop can come to the e3 square, and the rook comes in. After a few moves, we have knight to c3. You might wonder why I planted my knight on c3, but don't worry, eat a stress relief tablet and see that my bishop, along with my rook, can protect that knight very well. That's why we have bishop f2 and bishop d4, and the rook comes in to attack the bishop and the knight simultaneously. Here, I played a very brilliant move. Can you guess that move? Pause the video and try to figure it out. You might consider playing knight takes d1, which is the best move, like someone playing piano music while you're in the rain. So romantic, isn't it? It sacrifices the queen, but after the bishop captures on f2, you can see that I am actually up in material because having two rooks for the queen is advantageous for me. Rook c7 comes on the board, and my bishop is protecting that diagonal, which is good for me. This is why you cannot play any sort of queen check. As the rook moves to d8, we have h4 to save the king from a 200 elo rated back rank checkmate. After a couple of moves, we have rook h7, knight e3, and a rook check. The rook comes to b8, and everyone is protecting their pieces. My rook has a very strong opportunity, and after a couple more moves, we have f5 and the rook comes in. Knight to g4 traps the king in the cage, where rook to f2 can come and checkmate you in the next move. Torch tries b5 as a last effort, like a warrior without guns captured by his opponents, still attempting a last attack. Torch is doing his best, but after I captured, he immediately plays a6, determined to capture that pawn, but I have a rook check, and after a few more rook checks, we have a bishop check on the c3 square. Your king cannot go to d1 because it is a very bad move. After knight check and rook check on f1, it will be checkmate. The game will be completely over. So, going back to the position, we have queen takes c3 and rook check on e8, knight check happens on the e3 square, forcing the king to move, and then knight d5 check arrives. At the end of the day, I win his queen and am material up. This position is just winning for me. After a couple of moves, you can see that I am pushing my pawns. I captured his rook and checkmated him. This was a very masterful game. I hope you enjoyed it very much. If so, don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Wishing you all the best. Bye bye, see ya.